In corporate environments dominated by the relentless pursuit of results, where leaders like Musk transform human value into productivity metrics, we find an echo of the same structures that historically attempted to suppress divergent identities. This relationship is not accidental. Stoicism offers us a transformative perspective, recognizing the fundamental fragility of those who seek power without empathy. The leader obsessed with absolute control reveals, in truth, deep inner insecurity. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, he who depends on the admiration of others places his well-being in the hands of others. For the queer community, this understanding resonates with special intensity. The process of self-acceptance has already taught us liberation from external expectations that suffocate our true essence. This is our first strength when facing oppressive structures. We already intimately know the path to inner sovereignty. The Stoic distinction between what we can and cannot control gains singular relevance in these circumstances. We do not control the toxic work culture or the insensitivity of superiors who demand impossible hours. We control, however, our inner response, our capacity to establish healthy boundaries, and our decision not to internalize values that contradict our fundamental humanity. This is not a path of passive resignation, but of conscious resistance. As Seneca said, "What matters is not what you endure, but how you endure it." Our strength resides in the capacity to navigate these turbulent waters without losing our moral compass, without compromising the authenticity that cost us so much. To affirm. Zeno of Citium, founder of Stoicism, proposed that virtue alone is sufficient for happiness. This revolutionary proposition suggests that our fulfillment does not depend on favorable circumstances, but on our inner excellence. When a boss tries to link our value to unconditional submission, Zeno's teaching offers a powerful counterpoint. Our dignity is inalienable, independent of external validation. The leader without empathy operates through identifiable psychological mechanisms. They cultivate emotional dependence. They instill fear disguised as respect. They normalize excessive sacrifice. They manipulate through the promise of validation always out of reach. Recognizing these mechanisms is the first step to deactivating their power over us. The experience of subordination to leaders who instrumentalize human beings echoes, for many queer people, previous experiences of oppression. We already know the feeling of having our humanity reduced, of being valued only for our utility within a system that fundamentally does not welcome us. This familiarity, although painful, gives us perceptual clarity. We can identify dehumanization tactics with precision, as we have already witnessed them in other contexts. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this and you will find strength." This fundamental principle of Stoicism offers the foundation for our resistance. When a boss demands dedication that compromises our physical and mental health, we are not facing a mere professional negotiation but a philosophical test. What price do we attribute to our humanity? The queer community carries an ancestral heritage of creative resistance. We have learned to create spaces of authenticity in hostile environments. We have developed coded languages for safe communication. We have cultivated networks of solidarity that transcend oppressive hierarchical structures. These same skills are powerful tools in the toxic corporate environment. The Stoic concept of oikeiosis, familiarization or appropriation, describes the process of recognizing what is truly ours and integrating it harmoniously into our experience. For queer people, this process parallels our journey of self-acceptance and identity integration. When applied to the professional context, oikeiosis guides us to discern which aspects of work we can healthily incorporate and which we should keep at a distance as external impositions contrary to our nature. Stoicism teaches us that virtue is not an abstract state, but a constant practice. Seneca affirmed that life without pursuit is blind, pursuit without life is empty. In practical terms, this means that our resistance to power without empathy must materialize in concrete actions, not just in passive indignation. When figures like Elon Musk promote work cultures that glorify exhaustion and devalue basic human needs, we are witnessing what the Stoics would call unregulated passions, desires that exceed the limits of natural reason. Chrysippus of Solis, the third leader of the Stoic school, elaborated extensively on how such unregulated passions produce suffering, both for those who harbor them and for those subject to them. First, we must practice strategic detachment. This does not mean abandoning professional ambitions, but separating our intrinsic value from external validations. The narcissistic leader thrives by making us believe that our dignity depends on their approval. When we internalize that our value is inalienable, their psychological control weakens. Cleanthes of Assos, Zeno's successor, was known for his extraordinary persistence. During the day, he studied philosophy and at night worked arduously carrying water to support himself. His life exemplifies the compatibility between intense work and philosophical integrity, demonstrating that we can participate in demanding economic systems without sacrificing our fundamental principles. The crucial difference is that Cleanthes chose his austere discipline as a means to a virtuous end, not as submission to exploitative external demands. Second, we need to cultivate what Musonius Rufus called virtuous self-sufficiency, the ability to find satisfaction in our own internal virtues, independent of external recognition. For queer people, who have often had to find validation within themselves when the external environment denied it, this practice may be familiar. The Stoic doctrine of adiaphora, indifferent things, offers another valuable tool. Neither wealth nor professional recognition nor organizational status are true goods from the Stoic point of view. They are preferred, certainly, but they are not essential for a virtuous life. This perspective frees us from excessive anxiety about professional advancement and allows us to make decisions based on values, not fear. Third, Stoicism invites us to adopt the cosmic perspective, visualizing our current difficulties in the vastness of time and space. When a boss demands excessive hours or imposes unrealistic goals, we can ask ourselves, what is the significance of this in the extent of my complete life? How will this seem 10 years from now? This perspective does not diminish our challenges, but recontextualizes them. Palladius of Rhodes, who adapted Stoicism for the Roman elite, introduced the concept of appropriate social roles, the idea that each person occupies multiple functions in society and must perform them with excellence. For queer people in hostile work environments, this concept offers a liberating perspective. Our professional role is just one among many that we occupy. Our complete identity transcends any institutional function. Fourth, we should remember what Epictetus, a former slave who intimately knew oppression, taught. It is not things that disturb us, but our interpretations about them. When a professional environment tries to diminish us, we have the internal power to reinterpret this experience, not as a definition of our value, but as a temporary test of our strength. The queer experience has taught us to inhabit multiple realities simultaneously, navigating hostile spaces while preserving internal cores of authenticity. This dual consciousness is precisely what Zeno of Citium cultivated in his disciples, the ability to participate in the material world while maintaining intact an inviolable philosophical center. Posidonius of Apamea, who expanded Stoicism by incorporating empirical observations, recognized that emotions are not simple errors of judgment, but complex psychophysical phenomena. This nuance is valuable for queer people in toxic work environments. Our emotional suffering in the face of dehumanizing treatment is not philosophical weakness, but a natural response that we can observe, understand, and integrate into our virtuous practice. When confronted with leaders who, as we see in figures like Elon Musk, value results above human well-being, our Stoic response is neither submission nor impulsive revolt, but strategic action grounded in inner clarity. We systematically document abusive practices. We establish non-negotiable boundaries. We cultivate alliances based on shared values. We develop skills that increase our professional autonomy. Stoicism reminds us that, although we cannot always choose our circumstances, we always maintain the freedom to choose our attitude towards them. Chrysippus of Solus taught that virtue consists of living in harmony with universal nature, and our nature as human beings includes intrinsic dignity that no external power can legitimately violate. For the queer community, which has historically transformed oppression into art, trauma into wisdom, exclusion into community. The challenge of toxic professional environments is just another territory where our resilience can manifest as transformative strength, not only for our individual protection, but as a contribution to the collective good. The Stoic concept of kathekon, appropriate actions or duties, offers us a practical guide. We have duties to ourselves, including self-care and preservation of dignity, duties to colleagues, including solidarity and honest witness, and duties to the broader community, including transformation of oppressive systems. This triad of responsibilities structures our virtuous response to power without empathy. Work environments commanded by figures who seek power without empathy are, from a Stoic perspective, training fields for fundamental virtues: courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. We would not voluntarily choose such environments, but once in them, we can transform them into opportunities for inner strengthening. When a boss instrumentalizes human beings, treats employees as disposable resources, or demands disproportionate sacrifices, we are not witnessing genuine strength but vulnerability disguised as power. As Seneca warned, he who controls others may seem powerful, but is a slave to his own fears. The Stoic doctrine of sympathia, universal interconnection, reminds us that acts of exploitation eventually reverberate through the social fabric, returning with consequences for the perpetrator. The leader who, like Elon Musk, normalizes cultures of exhaustion may obtain immediate results, but compromises sustainability, loyalty, and genuine innovation. For us, queer people, who intimately know the journey of self-liberation, this understanding offers not only protection, but strategic advantage. We have already unlearned internalizing external judgments. We have already navigated complex identities in restrictive spaces. We have already survived the systematic denial of our fundamental humanity. Stoicism does not ask us for passive resignation, but virtuous resistance. Not silent acceptance, but deliberate transformation. Not escapism, but strategic engagement grounded in incorruptible values. Precisely the qualities that our community has cultivated for generations. The Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, anticipation of adversities, prepares us psychologically for challenging scenarios. When we visualize in advance how we will respond to exploitative demands, we are less vulnerable to impulsive manipulation. This exercise is not pessimism, but strategic preparation, particularly valuable for queer people who have often developed acute awareness about potential hostilities in new environments. When we confront leaders without empathy, we need to remember the fundamental teaching of Marcus Aurelius. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Our most powerful response is not to adopt dehumanization tactics, but to demonstrate through our actions and choices that there exists a superior form of power, one that elevates instead of diminishing, that builds instead of exploiting. The Stoic journey does not promise absence of difficulties, but development of the inner strength necessary to face them with dignity and purpose. For queer people in hostile professional environments, this millennial philosophy offers not just consolation, but strategy, not just resistance, but flourishing. True power does not reside in control over others, but in the inner freedom that no external circumstance can compromise. This is the wisdom that Stoicism offers us. This is the wisdom that, as queer people, we have already begun to incorporate through our experiences of authenticity against all odds. Epictetus reminds us, it is impossible for a person to learn what they think they already know. Leaders who, like Elon Musk, impose inhuman work regimes reveal precisely this limitation, the illusion that they already possess all the answers. Our openness to continuous learning, to adaptation without compromising principles, represents an evolutionary advantage. When we preserve our humanity in environments that try to deny it, we not only protect ourselves individually, but contribute to a broader cultural transformation. As Epictetus taught, first learn the meaning of what you say and then speak. Our virtuous resistance is simultaneously our protection and our most significant contribution. Power without empathy is ultimately a contradiction. For genuine power does not subjugate, but elevates, does not exploit, but empowers, does not divide, but unifies. This truth, recognized by ancient Stoics, resonates deeply with the aspirations for justice and dignity of the LGBTQIA+ community. Our strength does not come from favorable circumstances, but from the inner integrity that we cultivate even in the most adverse circumstances. This is the true power that no boss, however authoritarian, can grant or remove. It is ours by natural right, inseparable from our fundamental humanity, and inaccessible to any attempt at external diminishment. If Stoic philosophy teaches us that our freedom resides not in external circumstances, but in our response to them, then this channel represents a space for us to cultivate together this inner freedom. As Epictetus proposed, become what you wish to appear, and perhaps what we desire collectively is a community that transforms adversity into wisdom, exclusion into strength, and marginalized experiences into universal knowledge. By subscribing to Stoic for Us, you are not just following content. You are participating in a living philosophical exercise, where the ancestral teachings of Stoicism meet the contemporary realities of the queer experience. Just as the Stoics created their porches, spaces dedicated to reflection and growth, this channel aspires to be a digital refuge where we can, together, develop the inner tools to face bosses without empathy, oppressive systems, and still preserve our fundamental authenticity. Subscribe now and activate notifications, not as an act of passive consumption, but as an active commitment to your own inner strength. As Marcus Aurelius would say, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Let us cultivate together thoughts that liberate, even when circumstances imprison.